Your sensors are correct. Do not adjust your heading. You've discovered the Omega Particle, streaming to the Alpha Quadrant and beyond. Here's your host, the Anchorman of the Federation, the Doctor of Dilithium. This is Jonathan Wiegand.
Welcome back to the Omega Particle. I am your gracious host, Jonathan Wiegand, and we are streaming it to you live from all across the Alpha Quadrant and beyond. And I am down here in my secret bunker here on the eastern coast of the United States, and we're going to discuss some Trek today. So episode 6 of Picard is called The Impossible Box, and just when I thought I couldn't enjoy Picard anymore, they bring out this episode, and I was thoroughly impressed. Now, as always, we're just going to get right into it and right into the meat and subject of the episode and wrap up with a little bit of Star Trek news near the end of the episode. Once again, if you want to shout us any suggestions or topics for the show, please feel free to reach out to our Instagram at Omega Particle Podcast, or you can email us at our Gmail, which is omegaparticlepodcast@gmail.com. We would appreciate any feedback or suggestions because we love to give you what the people want. Now, let's get into episode 6 of Picard.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
So like I was saying, I did really enjoy this new episode of Picard, episode 6. One of the main reasons, because there was so much depth and plot in this episode as opposed to last week. Not saying last week was a bad episode, but it was really Seven-centered and really driven around her, and it didn't move the plot forward that much, which is fine. Like, I definitely loved seeing Seven and going in and delving into her past and what she's like now, which I thought was very needed, and can't wait to see how that is developed later on in this season. But it was nice to see the mystery moving forward and developing even more in episode 6. There were several Easter eggs in it and several fan servicing moments, but these, unlike last week, the fan servicing last week with 7 was more, oh, cool moments. These were more heartfelt, especially with those moments of Hugh and Picard. We started with Sochi having these really weird dreams or nightmares, however you want to classify them, which I always thought was really cool how Narek describes that the truth is trying to seek out, that they even have a subconscious in this android. And why did this android have a subconscious? And it was a really neat kind of exploitation of androids. It reminds me of that TNG episode, Measure of a Man, with Data being on trial, again with Bruce Maddox, seeing if he's Starfleet property or if he's an actual human being and actual life form. So it was neat kind of delving into the humanity of machines. And that's something we're definitely going to have to talk about in the near future with rapid technology and even driverless cars and the algorithms that go into them. So it's definitely going to be topic for conversation, maybe in the next 10, 15, 20 years. Maybe our children's life are going to have to answer these questions. But in the meantime, I definitely loved seeing that because it also, Measure of a Man, there was also another TNG Easter egg that tied Data's daughter, which it was a TNG episode called Phantasms. And this is when Data has dreams as well. So maybe it's something with their positronic brain or neural network that causes these. Maybe it's something soon put in there on purpose, or maybe it was something that just evolved. So we don't know. However, that was a neat little Easter egg. I was finally happy that we got some decent dialogue and writing between Narek and Orissa. Basically, if you don't know the names, those are the boy and the girl Romulan on the cube that are kind of working and trying to find out where this android's Sochi's home planet is. And so they were kind of debating she was wanting to step in. He goes, no, there's more time. She has these dreams. I can maybe pass her defense networks and get to where she's at and kind of coax her to get that information out of her, which, spoiler alert, he already does. And that's how he finds out this information about where the android's planet is. I did love the fun fact that, and I didn't know this, and maybe it's referenced somewhere else, but how Romulans have that secret name. They have like several names. They have like the name they give to strangers, the name with friends and family, and then the name with your significant other, true love. And I thought, wow, that's actually very romantic and weird for this USSR style secret society that is Romulans. So I really enjoyed that. That was a little cool, peeling back the onion that we haven't seen before in other series. So I really appreciate the writers kind of trying not only to uphold Star Trek world, but also expand it a little bit. Okay. Now we're about to get into the Borg and Reclamation Project. And I just want to say, I love the fact that they brought the Borg back. I love the fact that they used this project to bring back Picard and bring back Hugh, because it's a very delicate balance whenever you write new plot in already a very dense subject matter like Star Trek universe is. However, this is a very plausible, very seamless transition to bring in the Borg. It wasn't like they were bending over backwards or having this erroneous idea of how to bring back the best villain in one of the best villains in Star Trek. Everybody that listened to the Con series probably just were like, wait a minute. No, but the Borg are one of the best villains, and they really made the transition into the series very seamless, and I really do appreciate that writing style. Also, one of the first things that caught my eye when this whole Borg Reclamation project began, and we didn't do episode reviews in the past episode, before episode 5. So I know, spoiler alert again, at the end of Voyager, we see the Borg transit network, subspace transit network, get destroyed. And then their massive hive get destroyed. So to me, everyone keeps talking about, oh, they're cut off from the collective. They're cut off from the collective. Well, is there a collective still out there? That's what I want to know. It sounds like it is. I don't know if the show's meaning to put that out there, or if they're just banking on not a lot of people watching Voyager, but it's the same universe. It's the same timeline. So how did they come back? Maybe we'll get that in a Section 31 show, or we'll get that like mini series. To me, that's a great question. That would be even a great subplot, is how did the Borg come back from that? Because apparently they have, and the Romulans are taking advantage right now of their technology, and really don't know how that's going to pan out, but we'll see in future. So I'm not going to go play by play of why Picard's going back to the cube. He's trying to get Sochi. I did love when they were sitting at that table and Picard is explaining the Borg, and I mean, it seems like he has some PTSD, like no joke, which is really ironic because he's best friends with a counselor, like Counselor Troy. And so, I don't know, he never, I guess, got that checked out or healed up. So I was just really surprised to see him so brash and cut, and it reminds me of that last clip I played on episode 5 review of Picard having that vengeance and anger towards the Borg. And it still seems like he has a little bit of that. And who knows, maybe, I mean, just right now, spoiler, there are photos from episode 7, and as I'm recording this, episode 7 hasn't been released yet. So we see Riker and Troy come back in episode 7 and just Picard deal with that Borg issue, PTSD, or is it simply just a hideout with Sochi as they escaped? Also, we see this PTSD again of Picard when he actually arrives on the Borg cube. Let's play this clip of Picard talking to Hugh after he arrives in the Borg cube and almost falling off because he's just taken aback and he's having really severe issues here.
I didn't believe it until now. Welcome to the Borg Reclamation Project. I don't know what you're doing here, but I'll help you any way I can.
Oh, I'll take a friendly face.
See what I mean? There's so much more heart and warmth in that fan servicing that actually moves the plot along, as opposed to before, when in 7 she was just there and it was cool moments. But so I definitely can enjoy the warmth of Hugh and Picard in those moments, and it was definitely probably one of my favorite moments of the series. And just a backstory, if you guys haven't really watched TNG that much, or if you really don't even remember TNG, Hugh was from a famous episode called I, Borg, which appeared in season 5. It was episode 23. And they rescue this Borg that gets cut off from the collective, and eventually they reintroduce like individuality to him, and he even picks his own name. That's how Hugh is named Hugh, because he picked his name. So it's a really great episode of the Borg, and kind of this process that the Romulans are doing now. They're recovering all of these victims, like Picard said, of the Borg. Speaking of victims, we'll play the clip right now where Picard kind of humanizes the Borg, and he sees them in a way that he's maybe never seen them before. So here's that clip.
The outcomes are far from ideal.
What you're doing is good, Hugh. There's no need for it to be perfect. After all these years, you're showing what the Borg are underneath. They're victims. Not monsters.
Finally, Picard gets it. They're not some nameless, faceless monster that we're supposed to fight. They're this basically victims, like he was saying. They're taken advantage of. They're stolen. They've lost their identity. They've lost their humanity. And we finally see that. And I love how Picard is showing that again, peeling back the layers and the onions that other Star Trek series and movies have built up. Now we get to peel back and see a little bit more depth, a little bit more character. And speaking of that, wow, this is a very gritty kind of show, a very realistic interpretation of the Borg. And it all makes perfect sense. Like, I know when we see Seven and Icheb and the other Borg children from Voyager, the doctor like cleans them all up and gives them facial reconstruction surgery. And so they look relatively untouched from the Borg. But with the XBs, we don't see that. The Romulans didn't do that. And so they're very disfigured and they're very like haunting. I don't know if they showrunners did that on purpose to kind of show again the humanity and the victimhood of these people, of these XBs, or the Romulans just don't care about. As simple as that. They don't care about aesthetics. I did like seeing how the new alcoves of the XB and kind of this updated, refreshed 2020 technology of the Borg cube. And yeah, it's not that same old backdrop that we've always seen when like an away party goes into the Borg cube. Especially in Voyager, we saw it was just like the same two hallways. So it was definitely cool to see the Borg and 2020 technology represented. Finally, Sochi figures it out. And through this long story of like meditation and Narek kind of manipulating her, we find out that, okay, she knows she's an android. And then Narek uses that impossible box and tries to poison her. And then even says his real, quote unquote, true love name to her, which I thought was kind of, I don't know if he's using it as another level of manipulation or if he was actually saying in a way, hey, I really did care about you, but hey, duty comes first and you're going to have to bite the bullet. I really like that whole transition of her figuring it out and going down the path of meditation and figuring it out herself. However, so far, and my wife has been hearing this for a long time, the only big problem I have with Picard is this Narek storyline. Okay, there's a love interest. We get it. But at the same time, he could have wrapped this up in an episode, maybe 2. Like, it didn't need to be drawn out to episode 6. Like, I know for me, whenever the plot would go switch back to the Borg cube between Soji and Narek. I was like, really? Like, I don't care about this. Again, I know why they did it, but it could have been wrapped up a lot cleaner. That's my 2 cents. Again, agree, disagree, let me know. I'd love to hear from you about it. So they rescue Soji, and Picard and Hugh are trying to get away, and Hugh remembers the Borg have this teleportation device that the Borg Queen always use in case of emergencies. And so I assume that's where Soji and Picard go. They go to Riker and Troy's house on, I forget the planet they named. And then all of a sudden, like, Elnor shows up, and he's like, well, I'm going to kill all these people, and I'm going to defend you. But at the same time, I know the music and the writing's trying to push us towards feeling this emotional connection with Elnor, but I'm just not feeling it. I think they're trying too much, and they're trying to cash in those emotional chips, but it takes time to do that. I mean, even look with Hugh, that was one episode 20 years ago. However, that was 20 years ago, and we've been watching reruns ever since. So it seems like a little rush that Elnor may die. It looks that way. I don't know how he's going to get off that cube. Same thing with Hugh. But I feel like the writers are trying to cash in a little bit with Elnor, and I'm just not picking it up. I mean, don't get me wrong. This was definitely a fantastic episode. I loved how they're treating Picard, how they're developing his character, and again, peeling back the layers and adding depth to the Star Trek world. However, there was a couple missteps, and that's fine. No television show is perfect, and I don't expect it to be. But this is a review, and I'm just giving my 2 cents here. I'm really excited to see how they introduce Riker and Troy, where the mystery is going to unravel next. I wonder to see if Riker and Troy are still really heavy into Starfleet, or they've kind of just backed off. I assume they've kind of backed off. Looks like they're living in the cabin in the woods from the set photos they've released. Yeah, I'm really excited to see him back, and I pray we get a chair Riker maneuver in the new episode. So before we end today's episode and the review's over, let's get into some Star Trek news. I'll start off with some good news and some bad news. Start off with the bad news first, and I kind of agree with him here. Simon Pegg, who famously has played Scotty in the Abrams / newer movies, Kelvin timeline movies, he basically said that there probably won't be another Star Trek movie, and I'm afraid to agree with him, because I know they don't make a ton of money. I know Star Trek is we're a very loyal fan base, but at the same time, it's tough to get the masses in there, like as opposed to like a Avengers or like a Batman movie. So I kind of agree with him. Like, it will make money, but it won't make billions of dollars, and it won't break the bank in that sense. There's talks of a new sequel in the Kelvin timeline with director Noah Hawley. He's done like the TV show Fargo, and the rumor is that he's going to start on Star Trek once Fargo's done wrap filming. So, I mean, we have that to look forward to, and sadly, I don't think that Quentin Tarantino movie's happening. It was a cool idea, but yeah, I don't think it's happening. I would rather have them make the right movie and make it amazing than them to turn out just another kind of Star Trek Beyondish kind of movie, if you know what I mean. So here's the good news. I know a lot of you have seen the Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Leave Behind, and I was so happy to read that they are making a Voyager documentary in the same vein. And that seems really interesting, because Voyager has a little bit more drama and a little bit more hasty, like, behind the scenes than DS9 did. So that'll be cool to see. I don't know if they'll do like a season 8 DS9 documentary did, but it will be very, very cool, and I hope they release it again in theaters, because I would love to go see that. Yeah, so they are making a Voyager documentary. It's in the works as we speak. They're going to be doing interviews on the Star Trek cruise, which is happening this week. I don't know when you're listening, but it's the first week of March in 2020, and Star Trek cruise is going on, and It's the 25th anniversary of Voyager this year. So it seems like a perfect time to get the cast back together, have a good couple of reunions, get some interviews, and get this documentary off kicking. Well, once again, I just want to say thank you for all of your support, feedback, and love. It's been great. When I first started, I didn't know how much work a podcast would be, but it's definitely a labor of love, and I've enjoyed every second of the late night editing and talking. I've moved up from the basement now. I'm now in this closet full of like blanket forts. It's been fun to produce, and hopefully you guys out there are enjoying it as much as I am making it. Also, again, you can hit us up on Instagram. The handle is at Omega Particle Podcast. I post a lot of GIFs. They're good. I try to post every day around 9. And then with the upcoming episodes I want to talk on the podcast, we're going to be trying, I know Picard has a couple more, I think 4 more episodes, and it's a 10-episode season. So we have a few more episodes. And after that, it'll just be a 1 week, 1 episode. And we will be releasing on Friday. For right now, probably trying to release on a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday schedule. So bear with me on that. Like, life sometimes get in the way, but 2 episodes a week right now until Picard ends. And then we'll be going to just a once an episode a week. Again, thank you for streaming and downloading. I really appreciate it. And always remember, second star to the right, straight on till morning.